This year I'm throwing everything I've got at the balls. In addition to the brand collaborations and prototyping projects that I'm already doing, I'm working on launching my own ball company called 12 Pentagons. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on and a lot of interesting projects. I just hired my brother Keel to help stitch and prototype balls, so I think things will start to speed up a bit. It's been a bit hard to stick to any sort of consistent content schedule because, at least up until now, all of my videos are tied to me finishing a ball. This creates a bottleneck. This week we tried recording our Monday morning meeting and cut it to footage that we filmed throughout the week. As a side effect, it should have given an interesting window into the stuff that we're working on, document the process of launching this ball company, and allow me to upload a bit more consistently. Disconnected from the ball release schedule. As like everything else on this channel, this is an experiment, so let me know what you think in the comments. And by the end of the video, one of us somehow managed to slice the end of our finger off, so keep watching for that. Don't forget to subscribe. Some might say that starting a high-end ball company going into recession, well, first of all, what is a high-end ball company? We'll have to figure that out. But going into recession is probably a bad idea.
Yeah, I think it probably is a bad idea.
Let's start the meeting, shall we?
Yeah, that's fine by me.
Okay, Keel, ball school update.
Yep.
It's basically done. I'm uploading the long form video right now. I posted the short form video this morning. People are out there right now learning how to make balls. And the website's up. Kind of nice.
Looks good.
Looks good. All the pages work. You can click on a ball, learn a little about it.
That is nice.
So this is like a page that has, you know, links to buy all the tools. Download the templates if you want for free.
Cool.
Ball Makers Guild also for free. 32 panel ball model also it's all free, apart from the things I'm selling, which are the ball bladders and the ball dice.
Okay.
But I think that's reasonable, fair.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing that's not done yet is the make a ball kit. How did that go last week?
It went well.
When you were stamping out some of those panels.
It went well. Yeah, nice and consistent. It's a bit of a struggle with that press, but made it work. The bottom line is that it takes the whole process for like, depending on obviously how much you're stamping out, but for one ball, it's 35 minutes on average.
Okay.
And that's like the median average across like
that's interesting
6
to know,
sets
actually.
of balls.
That's interesting to know.
Yeah.
How many kits do you think we have stamped out so far? Are you having with you?
Yes.
Just have a guess. I don't need to know exactly.
6.
Okay.
Maybe 7.
Okay, cool. So the only lingering thing that we have to finish to actually like launch it is the website.
Also, getting the right size bags for the pieces.
Yeah. A question popped into my head actually when you're talking about stamping out the panels. So it takes 36 minutes, you said, to stamp out one panel.
Full ball. Yeah.
32 panels, basically.
32 panels, yeah.
How long do you think it would take you to stitch that ball if you were speed running it, doing it as fast as you can?
8 hours.
Like, what is the perfect like speed run time to make a ball like that, a 32 panel ball?
Yeah, I think for a like intermediate sewer, intermediate kind of leather guy, I think that's a sweet spot. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't be done faster.
I think we should try that. I think we should do like a full-on speed run make a ball.
I would be up for that.
And maybe we both do it.
I'd also, as like a race, that would be fun. And that includes like, start out with just literally a full hide.
I think so.
Yeah,
you have to
okay,
stand
that
out.
would be really cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool. I'd be up for that. How fast do you think you could do it?
I would like to think slightly quicker than 8 hours. I would like to think like, if I'm really going for it, maybe 4.
Oh man, no way.
You think that's off?
I can't see that happening. No way. Maybe with a 12 pentagon ball.
The homing missile. We've talked about this a little bit
Yes.
in previous meetings. Quickly, just to summarize everything that you already know. The last prototype didn't work.
Okay.
So I had the call with the lab. And it was really interesting. Like, they put the ball through like a series of tests. But let's just say they tested the homing missile up against some other balls that you would have heard of. So like match quality balls. Mm-hmm. And the homing missile outperformed those balls on some tests. The downside is, so that's cool. It's just cool to know that one combination of the ball bladders that we have and just a handmade ball can kind of, you know, compete with and sometimes outperform like match quality balls, which is kind of cool. The unfortunate thing is the intended function of the ball doesn't really work. So that's kind of the downside. They did give us some feedback on the things that would be worth experimenting with for the second prototype.
It is cool to know that it is possible to hand make a ball that's even comparable to these actual match-used production balls.
Yeah.
The thing that I thought was cool about the hoeing missile is this idea that you could maybe put some more control on the movement, you know, so there's that arrow that like points in the direction that hopefully it would move in more often. So
I think the best way to do that is with weight. That's going to be the number one. So I mean, I was kind of thinking the Canadian ball that you did, you allowed for those pockets for stuff to go in, right?
Yeah.
And having something like that literally purely on one side, or even on a few panels in one side, would make a much more drastic effect than what we're seeing here.
Okay.
So the next iteration is going to be conceptually it's similar. There's going to be a smooth side and a rough side. And in addition, though, we're going to add a bit of weight to the rough side. So hopefully that should, when kicked in the air with no spin, should encourage it to lurch aggressively in that direction. I have like a tungsten cube somewhere. You think you can do anything with a tungsten cube?
I wouldn't know how to like process it down into the actual dust itself.
Well, what do you think you need? You need...
I need to get some supplies. My approach is essentially going to be to lock it down to like a worktop and go at it with an angle grinder, basically. Yeah, I have it here.
When you say lock it down?
Yeah.
So literally like bolt it down like that?
Yeah, I'm going to have it like half on, half off a worktop with like a G-clamp.
Okay.
Clamping it down.
And then, I'm already scared.
I know.
This is already sketchy.
And then I'm going to go at it basically with an angle grinder and try and collect some paste. Just like a grinding wheel, basically, going at high speed. Here we are. This is my little setup. So here's my tungsten cube. Ran to Home Depot and I got this like tiny little kind of clamp situation, which it was the cheapest one I could get. Doesn't bolt down, only screws down, but I'm just hoping that it's going to be okay. Angle grinder with a few different cutting disc options.
Okay.
And I'm going to see where that goes.
Definitely get some like face masks. And
Yeah.
protective gear.
Eye protection and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have workers' comp insurance yet, so
Yeah.
be careful.
I'll be careful. I mean, it shouldn't be. I think as long as we approach it in a safe way, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
A little bit scared. I am wearing some eye protection, but even still, the thought of getting a big piece of tungsten in my eye is not very appealing. All of the tungsten dust will hopefully fall on the ground and can collect it. Oh God. I truly am quite intimidated by this. Wow, it's really smooth.
This is bloody heavy.
It's insanely heavy for the size of object that it is.
I mean, like maybe something like that in terms of weight on one side of the ball.
One candle's worth of tungsten.
Maybe
Okay.
somewhere in between these two.
All right.
Actually. Is that helpful? This is probably a little bit much, but this probably isn't enough to actually like affect it too much.
Okay.
So somewhere in the middle.
All right.
Yeah. So just see where you get with just like carving down like a quarter of it.
All right. I'm going to try a different grinding wheel on the angle grinder and see if that makes a difference. Because if I stick with this wheel, then I'm going to be here all day. That's taken a massive dent out of it. So I think this is going to be the one. I've basically beveled one side. I can feel stuff hitting my legs, like as I'm grinding, so I know there's like some debris. But as I get closer, I can hardly see anything. Attempt number 3. It doesn't look like much, but this alone weighs so much. 6 ounces, 8 ounces, maybe a little bit more. Definitely enough to get a pronounced one-sided effect on the homing missile.
Oh, hey.
Hello, Keel.
How's it going?
It's going good. I'm just working on the ball. How are you?
Great. Yeah. So I just finished grinding up the tungsten. Couldn't have gone better.
Ah, phew. Cool.
Could not have gone better. Took a little bit of experimentation, learned a lot, probably could have done a more efficient job. It fucking worked. I've got, I would say, a Satsuma-sized ball of like tungsten dust in my hand right now, which weighs about 8 ounces, I would say. It feels like a snooker ball. It's significantly heavy. It's like kind of the same as the cube, the tungsten cube itself. Is it just feels bonkers how heavy it is, really.
Here's one thing I was concerned about, is if we use like a really strong adhesive, I think it will mess with the way the ball moves, like when it's being kicked. Like it'll stop it from like contracting and releasing. If we use a really, really strong adhesive like epoxy. I honestly think this is the sweet spot. You know, it's like a few steps above kind of like Elmer's glue, but a few steps below actual bonded resin.
We're gonna have to add it to the panels.
Oh, I see. So you want to like paint it on the panels?
Yeah, there's gonna be channels cut out,
Right.
basically on one side.
Okay, that still works.
We can just like paint it. Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to actually cut the panels out for the homing missile, but I can probably bang that out tomorrow morning. Do you think you could cut the channels with like a skeeving knife?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Probably. There's this, I think it's called a V-gouge or a plow gouge.
On my way to the leather supply store to buy a special tool, which is called a skiving tool, or I've also seen it called a V-gouge. Basically, you run it across the top of a piece of leather, and it just takes away, without cutting all the way through, it just takes away just the top layer, like a plane.
I'm still so tired.
Same. Thank you. See you later.
Here you go, this is the homing missile.
Thanks, mate.
You might be wondering how the finger slicing situation is going to happen if that ended up going so well. It wasn't long after this phone call that I received this anonymous text message.
Normally I'm fine around blood, but this was pretty gross.
I was trimming some leather, and I slipped off the ruler and directly into my middle finger. So like the pad of my middle finger cut extremely deeply. There was blood everywhere. Now it's time for the reveal. Just lift it up.
I just don't want to take that top part off.
All right, you hold this, I'll do it.
Don't pull, definitely don't just like rip it off like last night, because that was not.
That looks like nothing.
Okay. All right, here. Switch me. Stop touching it. Like in my memory, you had cut that whole.
The
top
tip
part
of it
off.
was like hanging off. I had to push it back on.
Yeah.
There was like a big, it was like a flappy bit of skin that was like half of my
Maybe it healed. Maybe it,
Overnight?
Well, I mean, if you immediately put that skin like right back on fresh skin.
That's really burny. Fucking hell.
All right, now I'm gonna get some peroxide.
You're gonna pour peroxide in it?
Yeah.
Great. I just got done removing material from the triangles. Next step is the hard part. I've got a little syringe which I'm gonna fill with tungsten powder and glue, and then inject into these trenches the tungsten paste, and go from there. See what it looks like. Ooh, okay. It's coming out. It's a mixture of glue and tungsten. It's coming out pretty smoothly. Oh man, this is actually a lot smoother than I was anticipating. In the end, I just had so much paste left over, it just wasn't happening. I barely added any weight, and I was running out of time because the glue was drying, and I really didn't want to start the whole process from scratch. So I measured out an equal amount of each serving of tungsten, each portion of tungsten, and basically ended up like spreading it, pushing it into the leather evenly across the whole surface. It's worked really, really well. So if I just hold up this one cell, I mean, it feels substantially heavier. This one triangle probably weighs about the same as one of those pentagons there.
Gonna be a busy week, but I think it's doable.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think that's absolutely fine. It's going to be a bit of a. We're going to push first 2 days, I think, but it'll be good.
I'm scared about the man. Like, we now have this hard deadline. It just has to get done this week, basically. Yeah, the other thing, the plinth.
Yeah, tell me about the plinth.
Let me explain this plinth idea to you. So you know the balls have just been featured in this gallery in London.
Yes.
You know about that, right?
Yes.
And they were featured last year in this gallery in St. Louis. And I just think it's cool. I think it just like helps, like, it ups the perception of the balls if they're framed in this way. It's more like a piece of art than just like a piece of sports equipment. So I want to try and put a bit more effort into that this year, and like maybe try and get a few more, like get the balls in a few more shows, a few more like art galleries, basically. I was like, okay, well, at the very least, like, got to display the balls somehow, you know. So I thought, like, plinth. It's like,
Plinth.
right, I wonder how much a plinth costs. Can you just buy a plinth? You know, and you can just buy plinths off Amazon. And I found this plinth. You can get plinths, all sorts of kinds of plinths, right? Do you know what plinth is, by the way?
Sure, plinth.
Yeah, exactly.
Plinth is plinth.
Right.
It's starting to lose all meaning. The word is starting to lose all meaning.
It's kind of fun to say. Plinth. So I found this plinth, right?
Yeah.
And it's clear. It's a clear plinth. Obviously, this is fucks up, but there's a top on this part, but there's actually no top on this part at the bottom here. So, plan is to put a little lid on it, flip it, and then fill it with stuff that relates to the ball that's sitting ready to be played with on top. So like all the offcuts, like all the little bits of like thread, like I bought this Polaroid camera that takes like full-size Polaroids, so I'm gonna just like include like process shots like in the plinth, you know, like maybe stuck to the inside or something.
Sweet.
So all that to say is like collect all the little like off-cuttings and stuff you get as a side effect of stitching some of these prototypes.
All right.
I think that's pretty much it. Cool.
Nice.
Hopefully it all goes well.
Fingers crossed.
I'll see you next week here. Consider learning how to make your own ball. Also, subscribe.